bread is such a common good and food inside of society. As we know, it's a staple good. Basically, everyone is going to have bread inside of their household, no matter whether someone in there is gluten-free, just can't eat bread or wheat or anything like that. Someone's going to be eating bread. I have bread. You probably have eaten bread before. You may have had it toasted, you may have had white bread, you may have had brown bread, seeded bread, whatever the hell you want to call it. We've all eaten bread before. I have bread every day. I have a sandwich most days in school, and I have toast in the mornings that I put eggs on, I put peanut butter on, I put avocados on, and that ends up filling me up for quite a lot of the day, which is nice. But it's such a nice thing to base your meals off of, but it is not the most optimal food that you could possibly eat. And I know I sound like a sneaky person for saying that it's not like the most scientifically best possible thing for you to eat. It's quite a processed thing. Well, if you imagine the olden days in like the 1700s, where people would bake bread just from flour, yeast, and it would always be like whole grain, proper bread. They would bake it in a traditional method. The way that they do that now, it isn't the same as what they did at 1700, I don't know, those kind of years. Because now you have the chemicals, you have the preservatives, the salts, the antioxidants, the E457s or whatever that you want to call it. All those things, they have all of them in the bread. They have like dextrose powder, they have like glucose syrup. But I don't think they have glucose syrup, but they do have a couple like powders and stuff that they put in there just to actually preserve the bread, because it is one of those things that has quite a quick sell-by date when you buy it. Unless you freeze it, it's going to end up going out of date in like 5 days or something like that. It's why it's one of the things that goes to waste quite often, but because I end up having like 4 pieces of bread a day, 2 for my breakfast, 2 for a sandwich, it ends up meaning that ends up not really going to waste, and I often eat all the bread. But obviously, as I say, it's not the healthiest thing that you could possibly eat, but it is such a staple good. It is such a convenient thing for people, and I want to be able to help just the general populace of the world, and I want to help you figure out how's the best way to eat your bread. The first thing that we should probably ask, if we're talking about how to optimize your bread intake or whatever, is what kind of bread to eat. Now, you've got white bread versus brown bread, and then you've got seeded bread. I honestly say seeded bread is going to be the best bread. It has seeds, it's going to have some like nice healthy chemicals inside of those seeds, and it's also made from whole grain flour. If you have like the white bread is made from plain white flour, and whole grain bread and seeded bread is made from whole grain flour. Now, the thing with white flour is that white flour is essentially just a processed version of whole grain flour. Whole grain flour, it's going to have been taken out of the actual wheat plant, which I guess is a processing method, but then refining it so much that it is literally just pure carbohydrate means that there is actually no nutrients inside of it. It's crushed so much, it's put through so many machines, there are no nutrients. They've all been either taken out or just straight up wouldn't work in the body because of such mechanical and chemical processing methods. This means that after they do all that, they were like in the big vats that they use, they'll have to add the powders of the vitamin. You can get like vitamin C powders online and stuff. You can add the powder in, you can add the syrups in, or depending on like what its physical properties and stuff are. But when you do that, it doesn't actually work as well inside of the body. You imagine a supplement, if you had an apple may contain, I don't know, 100 milligrams of vitamin C, depending on how big it is. That's probably a completely false figure or whatever, but if you had an 100 milligrams vitamin C apple and 100 milligrams vitamin C supplement, the 100 milligrams vitamin C apple will do a lot more to help you because of the fact that it's going to be combined with loads of phytochemicals and phytonutrients, which are going to both help the absorption and utilization of that specific vitamin C molecule, which is going to mean that you reap the benefits more and more and more, which you wouldn't if you just ate it with like just a pill or something. That's why they tell you to eat it with meals and stuff, so that you can reap at least some of the benefits. But often there is some kind of chemical combination or physical combination with the molecules, which means that it's not going to exactly replicate the effects. But obviously, if you're not going to be able to get the ideal vitamin intakes from your diet, then pills will do just fine, but it won't exactly necessarily equivocate to the amount that is the exact same amount that's inside of food, for instance. Obviously, whole grain, it's going to at least retain some of the vitamins. Obviously, to get it into the whole grain wheat flour form from just a wheat plant, it's going to have taken some of the stuff out from mechanical processing methods, but it's going to keep and retain a lot of its stuff, more than what is contained inside of processed wheat flour. Wheat flour plain white wheat flour is such a common staple good as well that it's legal. You have to add the vitamins and the powders and stuff back inside of it once you've processed it, because it is such a common thing that people use, and it's such a common thing that people buy things where plain white wheat flour has been used. So the whole grain wheat flour, it will contain at least some nutrients. So eating seeded brown bread, it doesn't even taste that bad, so I don't really see why you wouldn't, because it is just going to help you be a better and healthier person. I don't see why you'd necessarily, I mean, yeah, white bread can taste nice if you're going to have like one of the baguette things or something like that, but when you're having like a loaf of bread, I don't see much difference between a loaf of white bread and a loaf of seeded brown bread. Tastes pretty much the same, not going to lie. So yeah, that's just my personal opinion. You may see it differently. I know some people that literally just won't eat seeded bread like it's the devil for some peculiar reason, but hey, whatever. I can't exactly change everyone's choices, but I am just trying to give you the knowledge available to be able to make choices of your own. Now, the second thing that I want to talk about is how should you cook your bread. For my sandwich, I have obviously just straight up the whole grain bread. Sometimes, obviously, if my parents or whatever have got the 50-50 version or the white bread, I'm going to probably have it because it's still going to be food. It's still going to be calorific. It's going to help me to bulk up somewhat, but obviously it's not going to be good for my health if I have it over a continuous period of time. You imagine, while like having one slice of white bread's not going to do a hell of a lot to damage you in whatever sense of the imagination. When you're having like a sandwich every day, as some people do for work, and it's using white bread instead of whole grain bread, because obviously the vitamins, one, when they're added back in, it doesn't actually compensate for the general amount that's inside of the whole grain flour, but obviously it doesn't act as well anyway. So then you've got that issue that also comes up. Now, straight up uncooked bread, when it's actually in its just straight up bread form, it's going to have more nutrients than when you toast it, because some vitamins are susceptible to like heat and they'll denature. They will turn into different chemicals which won't be able to act inside the body. They won't be able to be absorbed and be utilized and stuff like that. So that's going to mean that is going to affect the nutritional content of that specific just slice of toast now it is. But if you have your toast like black and charred, that is a really weird thing, just like for general taste wise, because it doesn't taste nice. But if you have it quite cooked, it's not like good for you whatsoever. The other thing that I want to say, while it gets rid of some vitamins and stuff, it will also create some bad chemicals known as free radicals. Now, free radicals are essentially the atomized versions of ions. You would have heard of things like sodium, magnesium, like oxygen, just general elements. Now, there will be some compounds that are created inside of this heating process where they will not have full outer valence shells, and this will mean that they are very, very reactive. They'll react with the air, they'll react with other particles inside of the toast. That's why it's so charred, because it just loses all of its natural sort of existence. Then when you eat that, it will react with stuff inside of your body, react with the cells, oxidative stress, all that sort of stuff. That's just not good news. And that is basically, if you look at a piece of charred burnt toast, that just screams free radicals. And yeah, that's gonna just mean that you age quicker and you die sooner, essentially, which I don't think anybody realistically wants. Lightly toasting your toast, I guess, your bread, whatever you want to call it, and hoping that it's whole grain or whatever, will be like the most optimal way for you to eat your bread, because it is such a staple good. So I wanted to make this video because I know like basically everyone eats bread. So having it either just a straight up whole grain bread and you have it in a sandwich, or just lightly toasting it, not completely charring the absolute goddamn butt out of it. But yeah, that is basically the best possible way you can eat your bread. Now with that, that's about all I wanted to talk about. And I recommend subscribing because I like this community of young tribal people who are willing to improve themselves so much more than you already have. And good luck.